Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry, and I'm continuing my Reflections and Forecast interview series where I sit down with senior executives across life science, pharma and biopharma to get their views on 2022 and get their predictions for 2023. And today I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Biosynth, Spitz, to get his views on 2022 and look ahead to 2023. So first of all, good afternoon, how are you?
Doing all right, thank you. Pleased to be here.
Well, it's great to see you. And where are you calling in from today?
From Switzerland.
All right. So I understand you've just been skiing, so you're very fortunate. But you don't know that you got a suntan from the skiing, though.
Oh, yeah. With all the protective gear, there's not much skin available to be tanned.
All right, well, my very first question, if people not familiar with Biosynth, is if you wouldn't mind giving me a quick overview of who Biosynth are and what you do.
Happy to do so. Biosynth is a supplier of critical raw materials and services to the life science industry. So we're not, and that's important, we're not a life science company ourselves, but we help life science companies, in particular pharma and diagnostic IVD companies, to develop their products. And we do so by providing the raw materials they need and also providing a lot of the services they need to do so. Basically, we say we are where, sort of the etch in the logo, that's where chemistry meets biology and product meets services. That's what we are. And our value proposition is you hire Biosynth and you replace 50 small suppliers. Basically, that's what we are, because we build our business around our customers. So we're not like other companies that are focused on one particular technology. Right. Our business is driven by customer sharing between the various businesses we engage in. So we build our business, our organization around our customer portfolio. That's what we do, and we're non-conflicted. So we don't do what our customers do. Like some of our competitors, they also meddle in the business of their customers, which we don't. We stay away from that. We are very global. We have 10 sites, Asia, Europe, and the US. We're more than 500 people now. We're more than 100 million in turnover. So that gives you kind of a feel how big we are. And we're growing very quickly.
Right. Well, we'll talk about the growth in a minute, actually, when we talk about how the past year or so has gone. But one thing I wanted to ask you was that obviously looking at 2022, if you were to describe the year gone by in one word, how would you describe it and why?
The growth, we have been growing very quickly, and we have been growing organically, but mostly we have been growing inorganically because we acquired 4 companies last year and we were very busy with integrating the companies. So when we buy companies, we tend to integrate them pretty closely so that we can get the synergies out of the acquisition rather than just acquiring companies and just let them be. We really try to create one homogeneous organization. And so this, of course, is challenging, and it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work in order to make it happen.
Right. And so you talked about the companies you've acquired. So looking back in the last 12 months, what are some of the achievements, and what are some of who are the companies that you acquired, and why did you acquire them?
So we built the peptide business, so the peptide division. Biosynth was not in the peptide business before. Right. So we acquired Vividtide, and Vividtide is the result of merging Peptides International and New England Peptides. So that was how Vividtide was created by Ampersand at the time. So we acquired Vividtide, and then we acquired PepScan in the Netherlands. And now we merged everything together to build our peptide division. And it's quite amazing. It really works well, and they're already acting like one company. It's quite successful. Challenging initially, but now things are really moving very well. I'm quite happy with how things are going. And we bought Alto in Dublin, Ireland, and Alto is an IVD company, and they're supplying a lot of the big IVD players with antibodies, antigens to design their assay, mostly high throughput type of assays. And it's a perfect match for us because it takes us more into the biologic space, and we have a lot of their customers we already have in the small molecule space, for instance. So this is what I was referring to before. So we build our portfolio around our customers. So we try to find what else are our current customers buying, and then we're trying to extend our business into that area. So to help our customers to consolidate their supply base, that's basically what we're trying to do. And so Alto is a perfect match for that.
Right. Okay. Now, looking at 2022, and you are, I think, a perfect person to ask this question, given that you are, as you said, supplying raw materials to a lot of companies within the pharma sector. What do you see were some of the biggest challenges the sector faced last year, and what developments stood out for you within the industry in 2022?
Well, we are not, I mean, there's two parts to answer the question. I mean, what are the challenges for the life science industry, and what are the challenges for us, because we are not part of the life science industry?
Sure.
So, I mean, clearly for life science, supply chain turmoil has been one of the biggest issues, and and that's what we're trying to address. And it's driven by pandemic and political volatility, all kinds of issues. There's also issues with a lot of medication not being available in markets because there's all kinds of reasons for it. Sometimes the compensation by health insurance is not sufficient. So a lot of companies just simply pull out of the generics business, for instance, because there's no money to be made.
Right.
There's lots of reasons. So it has been quite difficult for in a lot of ways. There also has been a crunch in the biotech funding. A lot of the startup companies, a lot of the venture finance companies have been struggling. So there has been a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties. Overall, the industry is very healthy, and it's not very much exposed to economic woes, because I mean, healthcare in essence is a fairly stable business, as it is a basic necessity.
Sure.
So overall, I think it was a good year. Of course, a lot of companies went through a post-pandemic change, because during the pandemic, a lot of the product portfolio has been geared towards the pandemic. Now, this is still the case in China, of course, but in other parts of the industry, there was a rebound, sort of going back to all the projects that were pre-pandemic. So a lot of change, a lot of challenges, a lot of growth, and a lot of, I'd say, downsizing again. So a lot of up and downs. Overall, I still think it's a very good, very healthy industry.
And you talked about supply chain then, and as someone who obviously supplies raw materials, though, and you mentioned earlier on that obviously you have sites all over the world, how have you been able to manage those supply chain issues to ensure that your customers are getting the materials they need to fulfill their projects and the work they've got to do?
Well, we have our toolbox is quite substantial, because the way we work is we have a lot of manufacturing, in-house manufacturing, but we are not, we don't pride ourselves as a manufacturing company. So we're completely reckless in that sense. So we get the product wherever we can get it from, which doesn't mean that we're not relying on solid sourcing, but we don't want to. We make a product if it's worth making the product. If others can make the product more efficiently than we can, we'll buy it from others, or we'll buy a crude form of a product or a precursor of the product, and we will refine the product in our own facility. So our mission is to get the right product from a reliable source, be it internally ourselves or externally, and get it to the customer at the right time, in the right quality, at the right price. That is what we're doing. And of course, the whole thing is wrapped into whatever services the customer requires. And sourcing is one of the services we offer. It's amazing that big pharmaceutical companies use us to source raw materials for them rather than their internal sourcing capabilities, because we're just a lot faster and we're very agile. So we have a lot of sourcing people all over the world. So we are, we benefit basically, in a way we benefit from all the supply chain issues, because that's a concern we're addressing as, our philosophy, our mission. And so, of course, we have been, we have had issues like, in China, we have a lot of people, we have 80 people in China. So it's always difficult to know what happens next. It's very unpredictable. And so we have to do our own planning. But our mission is to de-risk our own supply chains and help our customers to de-risk theirs. That's what we do. So, and I guess we're pretty good at it.
Good. Now, one thing I'm going to ask you is, because obviously you have offices in the UK, but obviously you're based in Switzerland, you're a global company. Have you seen Brexit impact at all the business and
Yes.
how it operates both in the UK and Europe now because of Brexit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have about 110 people in the UK. So the UK is important to us, and we also have a number of our senior managers located in the UK. So we're clearly committed to the UK as a site or as a location. But yes, Brexit had a big impact. Like we used to serve most of Europe out of our UK warehouses, especially in the research product domain. That pretty much came all out of the UK warehouse. And what we did, we have a site in Slovakia. I mean, Switzerland is not part of the EU, obviously, as well. And so we have a site in Slovakia, and we just built a new warehouse there. And a lot of the warehousing has been transferred from the UK to Slovakia in order to avoid these issues. And that has worked well. So it wasn't, for us, it's okay. It's not a major issue like it probably is for a lot of smaller companies. But we had to build a warehouse. That was the consequence, and we had to, obviously manage that whole transition. But it's going well. So we don't see any problems, or we don't see us suffering any disadvantages over Brexit currently.
Good to hear. Now, my final question related to 2022 is, looking back in the year, are there any areas you think the industry could have improved upon in 2022 in terms of, when I say industry, I mean the life science and pharma industry?
I think so. I mean, besides all the supply chain issues I mentioned, which is a big problem. You think if you develop a major product, a new medication or a vaccine, for instance, like Moderna, imagine nowadays with how many tiny little mom and pop shops you have to interact in order to get that done. It can go into the hundreds, right, literally. So that makes the life science industry extremely inefficient. I mean, that's one of the major problems, and that problem persists, and it's obviously not being solved yet. There's one problem. The other problem is biotech funding. I mean, we've seen a lot of venture financed companies, not being able to continue their work. And a lot of, if you look at NASDAQ, a lot of market capitalization just disappeared, just vanished. Some stock literally collapsed, by factor 10, by whatever,
Sure.
Became penny stocks. In some cases, their market cap being less than the capital they had, available on their bank account. Completely ridiculous situations. And some of these customers, or some of these companies, are our customers. Obviously, that made us concerned, because some like personal medicines, we are involved in a lot of that, are mostly venture financed still.
Sure.
And of course, if they run out of money and they cannot be refinanced, it is a problem. It is a problem, for those companies, but it's also a problem, for society, because potentially these new cures, these new therapies are not coming to fruition, right? which nobody really wants. So this is definitely be an issue, besides obviously the typical political and economic woes.
Sure, yeah. Now let's look ahead to 2023 then. I mean, from a big picture point of view, what would you see are the sort of major predictions or your major thoughts in terms of how pharma and the diagnostic industries will develop in 2023?
I think, of course, I don't have a crystal ball, and there's a lot of, the world has never been as volatile as it is
Sure.
today. Assuming nothing major is happening, like on the political scenery, I think it's going to, the development is going to be positive. I think the funding issues are going to be resolved, or it's going to improve again, and I think IVD and pharma is continuing to grow. I mean, it's a very, very exciting period in life science. There is so many things that are coming together right now. It's just mind-blowing. It's really hard to keep an overview. There's so many new discoveries, so many new trends, so many new ideas. And, if the whole artificial intelligence finally, becoming something useful, productive, this will even accelerate the progress further. It will amplify it. So I'm very positive overall, with the footnote, of course, we don't know what the Russians are up to. We don't know what the Chinese are up to. All these things we have no control over. But other than that, basically, despite all the talk about recession, I don't see a recession. All of our companies all over the world still struggle to hire enough talent. So there is a negative unemployment in our industry. So how can there be an economic crisis if everybody's got a job and everybody's making money, right? It doesn't really go together. So I'm fairly, besides the things we cannot control, I'm fairly optimistic. And there's good things and good trends also. I think green chemistry is becoming more and more important. We do now a lot of stuff on the small molecule front with enzymes. So actually, the fourth acquisition I haven't mentioned was Eucodis, which is a biocatalysis company.
Right.
We acquired, and the purpose is, to make small molecules using enzymes. Green chemistry, because we can see a lot of customers really want green chemistry, and not just on paper. They want to see it in action. They want to have the real thing rather than just greenwashing, which is a great trend. And of course, we are trying to help our customers to achieve their goals on that sustainability agenda as well.
No, that's interesting. And you also said that you're very excited about some of the new technologies. Now, you mentioned AI, obviously, and the growth of that, and also sustainability is a big issue. But in terms of the technologies you've seen out there, which you're particularly, is there anything which really stands out from you from a technology point of view, which you're really excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited about. There's quite a few things. I mean, there is, using, the immune system, basically rediscovering the immune system to cure all kinds of diseases, including cancer. So understanding the immune system to a point that you can trigger it and actually use it in a controlled way to fight diseases, rather than to having to fight the disease directly. You can modulate the immune system so it does the job for you. I find that absolutely exciting, what's going on. I find it very interesting, on the vaccine front, new things that can be done with vaccines, beyond even infectious diseases, or vaccine against bacterial infections, for instance, being able to make these conjugates that, of course, again, it has to do with the immune system, with using the immune system in a targeted way, and also, drug conjugates, antibody, or whatever drug conjugates is extremely excited. What I find is very interesting also is engineered bacteria, for instance, lactic acid bacteria. They act like little biopharmaceutical plants, and they produce the APIs or a whole portfolio of APIs on site. So you apply it to a wound, or you apply it to whatever diseased organ or whatever, and it will produce locally those APIs, and you get that treatment initiated rather than applying the API. You have it locally produced. Very exciting stuff. Also, like drug delivery. I'm working with a small company. They're producing liposomes that can be triggered to burst externally and release their content. So a lot is also not just discovering new APIs, but sort of repurposing existing APIs, by using smart drug delivery, for instance. So there's so much going on. It's, as I said, it's hard to keep an oversight. So of course we're thrilled, and we're trying to be involved in some of these exciting projects.
Fantastic. Now let's drill down a bit more specifically to your area, your particular segment, and what developments and trends do you expect to see or predict in the supply of chemical products and peptides?
Peptides is fairly straightforward, because a peptide is growing inherently, and the reason, or one of the drivers behind it, is that peptides are increasingly used as APIs. And they're also used in oral form nowadays. That's possible. It wasn't possible in the past, but now this is possible, and this obviously makes a big difference. If you can make a medication available orally, it has the addressable market multiplies compared to just injection-based applications.
Sure.
So peptides is definitely interesting. There's a big question mark when it comes to personal medicine. A lot of the interesting peptides has come, with the T-cell activation type of therapies, and we don't know where that's going. If that is successful, obviously we'll greatly benefit from it. If it's not successful, that is something that's gonna hit us. But overall, I think peptides is a fairly reliable bet. Custom peptides, of course, is quite competitive, because it's subject to some degree of commoditization. So there, scale and technology, efficient technology, great IT will play a factor. But I think we're very well positioned. So I'm quite optimistic when it comes to peptide. In chemicals, the growth is probably less pronounced, but there's more supply chain concerns, because a lot of the large peptide producers, they're already based in the Western world, but with general chemicals, that's not the case. So most of the chemicals are made somewhere in Asia, and they're subject to great concern, because even if it's a simple chemical, obviously a lot of downstream value creation depends on them. So that is, of course, that's a good area for us, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to help people to de-risk their supply chains, and we see clearly that it is an issue that concerns people. Sometimes it works against us, because it can be that people who exclusively bought from us, they suddenly now want to have a second supplier. In that case, it works against us. In other cases, it works for us, because we can de-risk people's supply chain. So overall, it's okay. It's a good thing. So we're quite optimistic in chemicals as well, as in peptides.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, from a Biosynth point of view, as you said earlier, 2022 was a very busy year. Lots of acquisitions and so on. So I don't expect you to reveal any secrets, of course, but what can we expect to see for Biosynth in 2023?
Yeah, our main shareholder is KKR. We're private equity driven, so we're doomed to grow. We have to keep growing. We have to perform, and we're going down that road. So we're going to look at more businesses. We have a good pipeline of businesses that would make sense if they became part of the Biosynth group. That's definitely what we're pursuing, despite the busy 2022. So it's going to be a very busy 2023 as well. It is a challenge to do that, mainly because of the integration piece. As I mentioned before, it is a challenge to do that. But we're ready to go, and we're building the organization, we're building the blueprints that allow us to onboard new companies quickly, and we're spending a lot of effort actually building those blueprints. So it's an important skill you need to develop to actually be able to acquire and integrate companies efficiently. And we've spent a lot of effort last year to do that, and we continue to do so. So with every acquisition, it's an intense learning experience, and we always analyze, for next time around, what is it we can do better? What is it to make it less painful? What is it to make the experience more positive for the employees? So far, I think we've done well, but that doesn't mean that we cannot improve. And of course, we also have organic growth targets we're supposed to meet. And so far, it's early days still. So far, it looks quite all right, despite all the concerns about the economy and whatever. We can see, part of our business is very much a research-oriented business. So we have the research product division, and that the division sells to laboratories, academic and industrial research laboratories, and that's usually the most exposed. So if there's a problem, a funding issue, you can see that's
Sure.
the first layer. Usually it takes a lot more for longer term projects to be affected, because there is a lot more funding and a lot more energy behind, rather than just laboratory type of research. So yeah, so it looks good. I mean, it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for Biosynth, and we have great people. And so it's really, despite all the challenges, the many hours and all the stressful events, it's great fun, really. And I think most of my colleagues feel just like that. So it's a great place. It's a great place to work, and it's a great journey we embarked on.
That's fantastic. I mean, as I'm going to ask you one question, though, because you just said something really interesting, and as I've got you here, I thought I'd ask you. You said obviously that you've had a lot of learnings from getting these companies integrated into the business, and obviously onboarding people. So if you were sort of advising other people, what would you say are the sort of top things people should do when they're integrating a business to an existing one?
It depends somewhat on your approach. I mean, some people, they just buy a company and then they introduce the salespeople to each other, and that's the integration.
Right, yeah.
And we don't do that. So, everybody works in the same ERP. So we have SAP all over. So, one of the first things we do is we start an SAP rollout project. So IT in our world, IT is almost everything. So we need to get people on the same platform quickly. So everybody's on the same teams, everybody's on the same Outlook, everybody works with the same CRM system, everybody works with the same ERP system, even others like document management systems, electronic laboratory notebook systems, all of that. We're trying to roll it out. HR systems, so everybody has the same HR process. The global quality management system. So we want everyone to be joining the same global quality management system, which is great, because for a customer, it's okay if they audit one site, they have basically audited all sites, because everybody runs the same quality management system. Sure. And that's a great advantage if you have projects that involve more than one entity. So this is an important part of our integration, and that's what we're doing. So it's very much IT driven. Of course, there is a strong cultural element to it, but that is, the managers need to have the proper skill and the proper approach to HR, or people operations, as we call it. And that's difficult to teach, right? It has to be in the culture of the acquiring entity. For instance, to make, that's why we changed the name to Biosynth Carbosynth, for instance. We didn't want Carbosynth at the time to feel as they are being acquired. We wanted people to feel that we're merging the companies, right? So it is on an eye level type of a process. And this is very important. I think the biggest mistake is if the acquired entity feels as if they have lost the battle. You know, if you're acquired, that means you have lost the battle, the economic battle, and you know you have to basically wave your white flag, and that's exactly what we don't want, right?
Now, that's a very good point. No, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure people find that interesting. Now, finally, I know we're into February already, but what last thought would you like to leave viewers for 2023?
Last thought is really the first thought. You know, I deeply and strongly believe that the biggest lever to improve the productivity of the life science industry is management of the supply chain, the hugely fragmented, inefficient supply chain. That is where I believe the core of the lack of productivity is. And medications, diagnostics, all could be developed a lot faster if that problem was solved.
All right. Well, look, I'm sure people out there will have some comments on that to make. So, it's been lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much for giving me an overview of the business, but also your thoughts in terms of the industry as well. It's been really, really fascinating. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with me.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And viewers, there you go. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to put them in the comments below the video. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn. But it'd be really interesting what you thought about Urs's comments about supply chain in terms of the trends and so on. And so, Urs, all I'll say is thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. Hopefully I'll catch up with you in person, maybe at an event in the not too distant future. I should add, you can meet Biosynth and their various parts of the business at many, many events throughout the year across Europe and North America and rest of the world, because they will be exhibiting at lots of events. I know that for a fact. So you can meet them there, and you can also check out the website, which will be above the video as well. So Urs, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. And viewers, thank you for watching. And as always, until next time, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.